pour these for us friends.
Yay.
Because we are what?
Shots.
Because we are what?
Recording? No.
Well, I mean,
together.
Yes,
oh,
together. Yeah, together
yes.
was the word.
Yes, that's what we
Have
are.
you ever done the like word association, like 3, 2, 1, have to like get on the same word?
Yeah, you have like 3 chances to get the same word when you have to drink.
I don't think drinking is involved.
Oh.
I think you just not.
I've only played the drinking game version of it.
But you want to try that real quick?
I'm gonna be bad.
I've never played it before.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Do we get multiple guesses?
We'll do the first try, and then the next one, we're going to try to guess, like, how do those two relate and still say the same one. Okay. But are we
going to make it random, or do you want it to be, like,
random?
Okay, totally random. Totally random.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Computer.
Cup. Okay. Cup and computer.
Okay. 3.
No. Cup and computer.
3, 2, 1.
Disc.
Mug. Oh, okay.
Disc and mug?
Yeah.
How does your brain do this?
No. We got it.
I don't got it.
We got it. It's literally in this room with us.
Disc and mug.
3, 2, 1.
Coaster. Oh my
Okay.
god, we got there.
Oh my god.
Wow.
5 minutes and 42 seconds.
That's crazy.
Okay, so welcome back to Boozicles. Raven and I are in person, if you can't tell.
Yes, it is wonderful.
Sorry for y'all. But yeah.
Sorry for them, but like amazing for us.
Oh yeah, truly.
Living our best lives.
And we have a fun one today. And by fun, I don't mean the time we had watching the musical. No. I mean everything else.
The time we had making the drink?
Yes.
Definitely, for sure.
Maybe the real musical of the friends we made along the way.
Indeed it is, Campbell. Indeed
so,
it is.
Now, we're going to for our classic segment.
Yes.
Called Vocable. So the word today is silence. And I don't mean rests. I don't mean fermatas. I just mean pure silence.
Yeah.
And music. I was reading this really cool article recently, and I think it really fits with like at least one of the songs of the musical. There's this essay that was my elbow that cracked just so loud. The Poets of Musical Silence, and here's a quote that I just thought is like very impactful. To focus on the phenomenon of musical silence is analogous to deliberately studying the spaces between trees in a forest. Somewhat perverse at first, until one realizes that these spaces contribute to the perceived character of the forest itself and enable us to speak coherently of dense growth or sparse vegetation. In other words, silence is not nothing. It is not the null set. Silence is experienced both as meaningful and as adhering to the sounding position of the musical object. Isn't that cool?
I like that because for me...
Thomas Clifton's essay, The Poetics of Musical Silence.
Yeah, for me personally, I always love in performances the moment just before, like when the conductor like raises their baton, the moment before the first note strikes, and then the moment at the very end, like when the last note rings out just before the audience starts applauding.
And I love how they're both different, because the one before...
One is more anticipatory,
and one's like a breath. I mean, but like kind of literal for some instruments and some musicians, and the other is just the absence, because there was. And you're still feeling that reverberation of it, but you can only feel the reverberation because of the silence. And once it's amazing. See, sometimes we say smart things.
Right?
But today I'm very excited about this drink. It's related to the musical that we're doing, which is Matilda the Musical. Specifically the Netflix film movie.
Yes. Which is an adaptation of the stage version, which is another like adaptation from the original Roald Dahl story, Matilda.
And then of course, like everyone knows, the 1996 movie.
Far superior.
Oh my god, it's so much better. But like there's a lot of parts of this I liked.
There's a lot of elements of this that I enjoyed, just not like the final product as a whole. But we're gonna talk about it.
And so what we're drinking with this is...
Drink is a strong...
Yes. We're going to be eating our drink.
Yes.
So, inspired by Miss Trunchbull's chocolate cake, we are consuming a layered pint glass, which has layers of a Bailey's chocolate cake and chocolate vodka pudding shots as like the filling.
It's like a trifle.
Yeah.
Love it.
So.
Mrs. Trunchbull's
Hammered Throw is what we're calling it.
Fantastic name.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Let's get a good clink. It doesn't reverb
It's
because
too
there's
dull.
just this solid in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Let's take a bite. I was gonna say sip. This is one of the most.
Oh my god, that's fantastic.
I'm sorry for people that have what is it?
Chocolate allergies?
No, what is it?
Pigtails?
No, they don't like hearing sounds like
misophonia?
misophonia, but like this.
This is amazing.
This is so good.
And you can really taste the vodka in the pudding, but it's not bad at all.
No.
And the whole thing just complements because the cake, I think it's good actually.
Ooh, that's a lot of vodka.
The cake is like very thick and fudgy, which is nice because then with the pudding, it just balances out very well. Oh my god, this is amazing.
We're gonna get drunk off this. I can already
Absolutely.
tell. And that's delicious.
Oh my god.
This was also fun because I haven't baked in a while. And listeners, if you don't know, I'm an excellent baker. So the cake, I wanted to find something, kind of dense and hearty. So I found this Bailey's buttermilk chocolate cake, which I think that I added some other stuff, changed some things around. And then the pudding shots, if you haven't made pudding shots before, neither have I before today.
Yeah. Same.
Here's some tips, advice, how-tos. You really just need like a 3.8 ounce instant pudding mix. And then a lot of people do like 1.5 cups of a cold, like whole milk, and then half a cup of alcohol. We didn't do that.
Didn't go that
We
well.
did cup of milk, cup of alcohol. You mix it all together really well.
Doesn't set.
It doesn't set because of alcohol. So it is helpful either after it's chilled some to put about 8 ounces of like some kind of like whipped substance, like Cool Whip.
Yeah.
And
Which
then,
also really balances with the alcohol and makes it much creamier.
Yeah.
And just, I think, makes the experience better too.
Exactly. And then you let it actually set for a length of time that you're totally patient for.
Yes.
Like a few hours in the freezer. But don't put it in a big bowl and expect that all to freeze at once. Put it in smaller containers, like we were making this to like make something out of it. But typically if you have like the little like pudding shot cups,
those would be better.
and those would set a lot
smaller
faster.
surface area. Yeah. Always, yes.
Smaller surface area, things that are smaller have a higher surface area.
Higher surface, smaller object, like smaller container, higher surface area.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so that increases,
Thank you.
decreases the time for the heat transfer, if you want to get technical about it. Which I don't. So
Classic
that is,
Sheldon
I'm going to
TV
have
exchange.
another bite of this, because
Yes.
this is like truly delicious.
It's fantastic, and especially with the shot that we already had, I'm gonna be feeling it real soon. They should sell this in restaurants.
Yeah, they really should.
Oh my god,
I think we really did something here.
for sure. Okay, let's get to it.
Yeah. So this, off the bat, I have a problem.
Yeah.
So this is the Netflix movie
Literally before the
by
actual film
Sony,
started.
by TriStar, which is a Sony division, and then working title, and then the Wonka bar for Roald Dahl. There was too many, like, contributor logo sequences.
Yes.
It was insane. I was like, is this the movie yet? And then I saw the Wonka bar. I was like, we already watched Wonka.
Yeah.
Did I pick the wrong movie?
I saw the
it's-
look on your face.
And I was just like, wait, what's going on? And so it was just like too long. And then we get into the song Miracle.
Yes.
Aw, babies.
So Miracle is basically sung by like a bunch of little kids, and it's from the perspective of all these newly born babies, basically singing about how much their parents love them. So like, my mommy says that I'm a miracle. My daddy says that I'm a big, strong, I'm this big little soldier or something like that. Here's my thing with this song, and a lot of the songs in this musical that we'll get to. This song functionally works for like what it needs to do narratively. It accomplishes that and nothing else. Like
I think it actually does that a disservice because it's about 1 million minutes too long.
Agreed. it's so the whole point of the song is just to establish like, oh, parents are supposed to love their children.
That's
That's it.
You could have just done that with the baby part. I did like Matt Henry, the doctor, who
Yes.
also was in a musical we've
Yes.
done, which was It was a recording of a stage show, if that helps you out.
A recording of a stage show could have been. No, there's only white people in that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh. Kinky Boots?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was Lola. Matt Henry.
Tracks.
And yeah, I think he does a good
that
job.
Explains so
he has
much
such a good voice.
His voice, I literally wrote, the OBGYN's voice is a welcome change to this song because, listen.
Hot take.
I love kids.
Hot take.
I love kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't super enjoy hearing large groups of them sing.
I have the same exact thought.
Especially when the point, don't get me wrong, I understand from an artistic perspective, from a theater perspective, why they're kind of like intentionally singing a little clunky and poorly because they're little kids. That's literally the point. There's like 3 and 4-year-olds singing. That's fine. Let the babies sing, but like don't record it and put it in a like production.
Okay, so that's why I disagree. I don't like children singing, but they have to be either super good, like in Annie, or not good, intentionally. Like these babies in the beginning. I know it's not babies singing, but it's just like something that's not. What I have a problem is when children
like James in the Giant Peach, like that first song.
Yeah, it just like when they sound real, that's great. But when they sound like
somewhere in the middle,
you're 5 years old and I think you've had 4 years of vocal training to the point that you sound like robotic. I'm just like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Kill it with fire.
Yeah, I really don't like the way this song just sounds.
Well, I was going to say, in the very beginning, I was fine with the babies. I was like, you know what, this is like the time, I don't think it works for me. And
I
there's
don't like it
other children in this. I will say, I don't think I've seen a production, a form of media, that has as talented of children than Matilda.
I fully agree.
Because that's... We'll get into some of them, but Misha Garbett, who plays Hortensia...
Oh, yeah.
Star.
Oh, yeah.
I
wrote down at one point, like, the children in this are so incredibly
better
talented.
than the adults.
Crazy.
And I like the adults.
Absolutely.
To the extent that this is the first time I saw this. Raven saw it before and lied to me when she said it was good. That's why we're doing
because
this.
I didn't want to ruin your perception of it.
So you'd rather lie to me. Got it. Yeah, we're on the same page. You are a bad person. But when this, like the trailer for this came out, it was the song Revolting.
Mm-hmm.
That was on Twitter and like X, whatever the fuck it's called. And they replaced the music with a bunch of different other music.
Yes.
And these kids, like it fit, like Work It, Missy Elliott, I think was my favorite one.
Yeah. Oh, because the kids are such good dancers.
Yeah, and they're just like doing backflips. And I think it's really unfair how talented children have to be nowadays. Yeah. Because I think over 200 children were like cast in this film.
So many, yeah.
And could you imagine those auditions?
Like,
could you imagine having to do that as a child?
Yeah.
I can't.
And granted, as a child, your like strength to body weight ratio is much higher.
I'm just talking about talent in general. Like, yeah, like we grew up playing instruments and like we good in school and we had a lot of things going for us. We were excellent children in a lot of respects. It's like
the stress.
It's like if you had like an average person compete in the Olympics. I feel like the differences in my child ability and then any single child actor nowadays.
Especially when you think about like children that act in musicals and or musical productions like Broadway, because at that point, like, it's one thing to be a talented actor, to be talented in one specific area, but then to have to do all of that production work, to have to do like that level of like production ability, of like singing, dancing, and acting as like an 8-year-old, insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
But yeah, this song goes on way too long. When they get to like the tears in the hospital with like they're playing the kid, I was like, none of this is needed.
Too much. And so then finally
we're introduced to Mrs. Wormwood and Mr. Wormwood, played by Andrea Riseborough and Stephen Graham respectively. Andrea's been in Birdman, Happy Go Lucky. She starred and produced, executive producer to Leslie. Stephen Graham has been in a lot of things. Rocket Man, which I do want to do for the podcast. That's the Elton John one with Taron Egerton as Elton John, and like he's incredible. Boardwalk Empire, Code 444, Snatch. And so we're introduced to Matilda's parents, who they're like, what? What do you mean I'm pregnant? When
she's 9 months along.
Yeah, and she was like, the doctor said, no, you're about to give birth, and that she did.
Yes. And the dad is absolutely distraught when his son turns out to be a girl. Then we get the title card, and then it cuts to Matilda about like 7-ish to 9 maybe years old. I am terrible at telling children's ages. Lying on top of...
not a teenager.
Correct. Lying on top of Mrs. Phelps' like library van, which I think is such a cool idea.
Can that be my career?
I literally want it.
Yeah.
I literally want it.
So Matilda is played by Alicia Weir, who's been in Darklands, Wicked Little Letters. The movie I really want to see, I didn't realize it was her, but I've been seeing a lot of trailers, clips from this movie, Abigail. It's a horror movie where I think the premise is something like this like guy hires like a bunch of people to like rescue like his daughter or this little girl from this house. They get in there, a bunch of different people like competing. Realize, no, this is a trap. Abigail is a vampire. And is going to kill them all. And she plays Abigail.
That's fun.
And like people, I've like seen a lot of like, she looks incredible in it. And then we have Mrs. Phelps, the librarian, played by comedian, writer, actor Sindhu V, who's also been in Feel Good, Sex Education. Very funny. I thought she did a really good job.
This, and so she's Miss Phelps is like, hey, you know, it's technically past closing. Aren't your parents waiting on you? And so Matilda like kind of lies and says like, yeah, my parents are totally waiting on me. And she goes home, and where we learn that they've apparently never sent her to school. And so truancy laws exist, and so they're being threatened by the state.
We also see for the first time Miss Honey.
Yes.
Who in the original Matilda film, in love with her.
Yes. Amazing.
Just
fantastic.
Incredible.
Wonderful.
But this Miss Honey, also incredible, amazing. Lashana Lynch, and she's been in a lot of things.
Queen's Gambit, I love her.
I've never seen Queen's Gambit.
Oh my god, you should watch it.
I just got Netflix again, like for this, so maybe I will. But she's been in No Time to Die, still Star-Crossed. She's also been in a lot of Marvel movies. She plays Maria Rambeau, so she's been in Captain Marvel, The Marvels, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and she's a completely different person from every one of those credits we just said. So very, very talented. And I think her singing voice, which is also so different from everyone else in the movie, that was just kind of refreshing in that way.
And wasted in this film?
Yeah.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. There were multiple times I wrote down, why did they make her sing these terrible lyrics? There was exactly one time in the movie that I feel like they actually did her voice credit, and they ruined it shortly after. So we're going to talk about it.
But see that she has to be sent to school.
Yeah.
Matilda's pretty excited because she loves to read. She was like, I could read more there. And her dad's like, you know what? I miss Trunchbull. I'm going to tell her that you're a terrible girl because you are, and that's what I think you are. And then we get into the song Naughty. And it's I really like this song throughout, especially like the themes of it. She's talking about different storybook characters. They're innocent victims of their own story. So like storytelling in books are ways for her to, manage her life, escape from absolute neglect.
Yes. There's something about, and we can talk about it when we get to the discussion question, but there's something about the lyrics to a lot of these songs that feel almost too literal. And it results in, verses that are too wordy to me.
And,
and it messes up the syllabic meter of the song.
Do you know how you could fix that?
How?
Not having so many verses and make the song
Make the song shorter.
And, all these songs are too long, except for at least one song that I can think. I think it's actually the next song. I was glad it was the length it was, because they do some cool things. But basically, she starts pulling pranks. And
jumping on their bed, fucking with all their stuff. So she puts some. At first, I thought it was going to be Nair or something, but I guess it was a dye or something like some chemical into her dad's hair serum.
Regrowth serum.
Yeah, hair regrowth serum, and so it turns his hair green. He's like freaking out. And the song is basically just about pulling petty revenge on people that bully you, which honestly, I'm all for.
Same. And so then she gets ready for school.
Yep.
She actually gets there super early.
Walks all the way there.
Yeah,
Crazy.
her parents aren't going to drive her. And then see Mrs. Phelps there's like, hey, honey, like...
School doesn't start for an hour.
For an hour or two. And so she starts telling the librarian like a story that she's been like writing / working on.
In her head, yeah. And so basically the story is about an escapologist and an acrobat who fall in love. They get famous together performing all these crazy stunts. But eventually they kind of get a little sad and they decide that they want a child together. Eventually they announce that they will attempt the most dangerous feat ever in the world ever. Stupid name. Yeah. I get that it's made up by a child. Stupid name.
Cut there. We'll come back to it. And so the escapologist and acrobat, they're played by Carl Spencer and Lauren Alexandra, respectively.
Yes.
Carl Spencer also was in Rocket Man, was also in the most recent Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Lauren Alexandra was in Death on the Nile and Artemis Fowl, I believe a dancer for them, and then she was a voice actor on Spotbots. And school is getting ready. There's another young girl that is starting at the same time. So we meet Ray Yamaguchi Folker, who plays Lavender, and we're kind of introduced to what's the setting, what's the vibe at this school in the school song.
Have you ever read Series of Unfortunate Events, specifically Book 5, The Austere Academy?
I didn't read any of those books, but I did watch them. I watched the movie a long time ago at Curtis's house. Hey, Curtis. I had a good time. There was some like good laughs.
But very much giving. If the adults from Annie opened a school.
100%. So we're introduced to a lot of the main children.
Yes.
And kind of get an idea of what the hierarchy at the school is. Mm-hmm. So we also have Nigel being played by Ashton Robertson. We have Charlie Hudson Pryor playing Bruce Bogtrotter. We have Eric is played by Andre Shen. And Amanda Thripp is played by Winta Jerry Glasspool. And like I said before, Misha Garbutt plays Hortensia. Misha has also been in Jingle Jangle Cats, was also in Hobbs and Shaw. She steals the movie for me in her little red beret. But I think that's also influenced by all the people complimenting her, just telling her that she's like a new Alison Stoner with the Missy Elliott edit.
Oh, that makes a degree of sense, but... Yeah.
But I think she is
very talented.
She does a commanding job, and she
very
has
much.
The right role for her.
I agree.
But this is a cool school song. At first, it's like, watch out. Like, there's really good choreography. All the kids are just on it all the time.
And the way they're like, the way they're all so coordinated together. That's also something that takes an incredible amount of talent, especially being that young, and to have that understanding of like group dynamics and flow and meter to be able, like, the way they all move together and the way I love a coordinated ensemble dance like this where each person, each individual is only making small actions, but because they're all making the movements at the same time, it's like a wave, and it's just such a...
It's good composition.
It's good choreography, too.
Yeah.
I really like it. And I really like the songs that are sung by the children. I really like the beat and the rhythm of all of them. And, like, this one kind of foreshadows the rhythm of Revolting Children a little bit. Like that bum, ba-da, bum, ba-da, bum, bum, bum. Like, I really like that. Still think the lyrics are a bit too wordy, but
I thought it was
like
a cool way.
I like it more.
Especially because you realize the second time they go through the song that, like, you go through the entire alphabet.
Yes.
And I think in cool ways, but the ways could have been better.
The specific only one, like, I think the ABCs are really, really good until, and remember to be extremely careful. Hate it, bad, terrible. I don't like
there's a worse one before that. I think that one's fine.
Right.
When they say curious for a Q, when immediately after they say question.
Oh yeah, good point.
I really like that they do Fizz Z for Z though. I think
That's
that's fun. And so the second time you're hearing it, you're just like listening out to all the words that you already said before, in which like alphabet letters they were. And you find out like all the kids are hostages here.
Much,
They say
like
jail,
prisoners of war.
capital J. I like the song. I thought the song was really fun. I was excited to see what the different letters would be. There is obviously some creative liberties going on with them, and it was weird. And then we see in class Z is Miss Honey's class, and Lavender and Matilda go there. Mm-hmm. We start singing, she's a nice teacher, she's caring.
Fantastic. Actually likes kids, imagine that.
There's a bunch of math on the board.
Nigel starts having a panic attack.
He was like, there's like too many numbers in my head. It's just like, don't stop looking at a kid. And Miss Honey tells Matilda, she's like, hey, go take care of it on the board. And she actually starts solving the problem. Very good, well hunted. Yeah, right.
So then Miss Honey heads up to...
It's like, this girl's a genius. Yes. Like, I can't even do this.
So she heads up to the Trunchbull's office. Basically tells her, like, hey, I'm pretty sure Matilda's a genius, and I think she should be, at minimum, like, moved up to a higher class level so that she can actually be challenged.
How do you feel about that? As someone who has literally done that. I didn't think about that. What grades did you skip or do, or were you just kind of, like, put into a higher starting grade?
Yeah, so my journey is a little complicated. So I started off at a kindergarten at a private school, and they just started sending me to class with the first graders because they were like, this girl is on a different level or whatever. Then that private school closed down, so then I moved to public school. They wanted to put me in a higher level, but they didn't believe my parents that I was smart enough to do that. So they tested me. I tested into the 4th grade, and they were like, you're 6, we're not going to do that. So then they put me in 2nd grade. But that happened over the course of a year, so functionally I only skipped a year.
But also, are you young or old for what the
I'm young for my grade, so I'm born in September right before the cutoff, and then I skipped a year. So like, I'm usually...
Functionally 2 grades.
Yes, in age compared to my peers. Yeah. I've always been about a year and a half to 2 years younger than a lot of my peers for the most part.
Yeah. How was that experience for you?
See, terrible, but also in hindsight, okay, so
from an intellectual standpoint, from a social standpoint, and from a developmental standpoint.
So from an intellectual standpoint, fantastic. I actually really enjoyed being moved and having that extra challenge. There were points in like early school where I like literally just felt bored in class, and I'm also ADHD, so then I would finish my assignments early, and then I would get in trouble for like wanting to play or talk to my friends. But I'm just like, well, then give me harder work. And so then they did. So I did enjoy that. Socially and developmentally, I don't think it's that great. I think children at a very young age are very different. That's like actual proven fact. I don't need to, that's not an opinion of mine.
Yeah, that's biology, that's psychology.
Yes. And so I think at that age, even a difference of like a couple of years between like a 3rd grader and a 5th grader, or a 1st grader and a 3rd grader, can make a huge difference in their like actual development and their ability to understand the social situations that they're put in. Granted, I think my particular struggles were exacerbated by me potentially, very likely, almost probably having autism. And so it was a really tricky position for me where like I look back at a lot of the experiences I had as a child, and would I want to go through that again today? Not necessarily. But would I want to stay in the grade that I was in? I also don't know. And so it's one of those things, like, I've had people come to me and, like, specifically ask me, like, this is something I think about doing with my child. Like, do you think I should do it? And I'm just like, it really depends on your child and the program.
Because also...
and what support they're going to have.
Also, if you want to be intellectually stimulated and have, like, that kind of growth, and you don't want them being bored and things like that...
There are ways to do that.
There's ways you can do that as a parent and not necessarily having that be the school's responsibility.
And I also think that like a better way, like both for teachers and parents, if you're looking to intellectually stimulate a child that is more advanced than the children they're in a level with, teach and encourage that child how to teach others. Because that's going to, one, it's going to help intellectually stimulate them. It's going to help the other children that are around them. And it'll also grow their social skills.
So interested just seeing your thoughts. But we see Agatha Trunchbull, played by Emma Thompson.
She's fantastic. She's loving her life in this movie.
She completely disappears into the role, which
she's fantastic.
Respect. If you don't know her, she's been in like all the Men in Blacks, Love Actually, Sense and Sensibility, Professor Trelawney from the Harry Potters. Yeah. She is amazing in this.
I get a similar vibe from Emma Thompson as the Trunchbull in this movie as I get from Eartha Kitt as Yzma in Emperor's New Groove. I feel like she just showed up on set and had the most fun of her life.
Yeah.
And I love that for her.
It's like I think it was fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah. And so we find
Mrs.
out
Trunchbull, the Olympian.
We find out that her motto and the school's motto is Bambinatum est Magitum, which is not real Latin.
I was gonna, because if you couldn't tell, Raven took Latin in high school.
Which is fake movie Latin for children or maggots. So then we get into the song "The Hammer," where the Trunchbull regales us with the tale of her days as an Olympian, performing the hammer throw to perfection, if her tale is to be believed.
I really like her singing in this. I really like the characterization through voice.
I agree. I think this is the perfect introduction to her character, because at this point the only other time we've seen or heard her character is over the PA, and we've only seen like a partial of just her mouth. Mm-hmm. And I think seeing her in all her glory first in this scene is like a perfect introduction to like who she is, why she is the way she is throughout this film, and also like what all of her driving motivations are, which are just perfectionism, specifically in physicality and behavior and like mannerism.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really important, especially for your antagonists in musicals, that their intro song, not necessarily here's my plan song, but intro song is really important.
Yes.
And I think this is like one of the better ones I've seen in musicals. Mm-hmm. I also really liked how she's like, children sing, and then you see it on all the monitors, because it's, you know, the NSA there, that everyone is like just beckons to her command, Jenny, sing. And so then
Matilda runs home,
talks back to her parents, gets like shoved in a room, a little reprise
her dad is
of
doing
naughty.
some unethical business practices that she tries to call him out on. Rips up her library book, which is 1, don't deface books. 2, don't deface books that are other people's property. That's terrible.
That's so rude.
Yeah.
But you see her kind of, she like glues it back together and then just like putting glue on his hat so it'll get stuck for pretty much the rest of the movie. But we are back on the schoolyard and we see, is it Eric?
That comes running, asking them to hide him?
Oh, Eric talking about telekinesis.
Oh, yes, telekinesis. Oh,
telekinesis.
So
and so basically magic exists, which is just a weird as this. The story of Matilda, there's like so many things going on with it. Like magic doesn't need to be part of it.
It doesn't need to, but I like that it is.
Yeah.
I like what the overall message and story of Matilda is, which is more or less that like, hey, sometimes adults fucking suck. Mm-hmm. And especially as a child, when you're small and you have literally no power on the world around you, you can feel helpless. And what if you could do something? What if you could just fuck with all of the adults who were fucking with you? And I like the fact that the magic comes out of nowhere, because I think that's how it would happen in a child's mind. Like, I think in a child's mind, they're just like, I just wish that I could do this thing. Mm-hmm. And this is like that wish fulfillment for like all children that have experienced this.
Yeah, but then, I mean, I think there's a lot of times it could have gone wrong and should have, and could have made a really fun movie. It could have been like Carrie.
Oh,
or like Stranger Things and like 11.
Fair enough. I never liked that we don't get, and maybe we did in the 1996 film, but in this one at least we don't get, any of those like comedic moments where she's still learning how to control her power and like messes up with it. It's just all
very
She's just kind of perfect at it from like whatever she wants to do. She just figures out how to do it, and I'm just like, I feel like I would love a little bit more of a hero's journey here.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's enough in this movie.
There's too much.
And so then Nigel's coming, and he's about to be blamed for something he didn't do. Yes. And so we see what the chokey is, and it's basically an Iron Maiden for children.
For children, love that.
Yeah, in the shack in the woods.
Yes.
No notes. And so come up with a plan that, because he was like, like 20 minutes ago someone did this, and Matilda's like, everyone quick, hide under the blazers, we'll figure something out. Yeah. They all line up, and then Miss Trunchbull's looking for Nigel. And immediately Matilda's like, oh, there he is. Yeah. And she was like, oh, what? And he was like, yeah, he's been sleeping there for an hour.
Because he has narcolepsy. which basically means that he'll like randomly fall asleep. Trunchbull is pissed that
Still has to make an example.
Still has to make an example because like she can't not bully a child. Yeah. What would that look like?
So she has to attempt a moiter by hammer throwing Amanda by her pigtails.
By her poor little pigtails. Oh my gosh, that girl's poor hair follicles. I cannot imagine.
But she lives. Someone checked.
Someone checked to see if that child's still alive, and then she's mad.
She was upset about it. She was like, oh, I need to be training again.
Oh my gosh. She's like, how could she? So then Matilda, it's after school. She runs back to Mrs. Phelps to continue her story. Because clearly it's, inspired by all of the bullying she's experiencing. So in the story, it is the day of the most dangerous feat ever in the world ever. Still a stupid name. It's canceled. The acrobat
I am pregnant.
Is now with child. And logically, they're just like, we're not going to do this when we could risk the life of the child that we very much want.
Life's worth living again.
Life's worth living. And so then the evil stepsister, who is like the producer / investor for this show, forces them to go through with it. Because she's like, well, how am I going to make my money back if you don't do the feat?
You signed a contract, so you wouldn't go to jail, and she's played by Catherine Kingsley.
Yes. And, go ahead. Do you want to give some? Okay. And then we kind of cut back a little bit, and Miss Phelps is quite worried about Matilda. She's like, hey, this is a slightly disturbing story for a child of your age to be coming up with. Is everything okay at home? Are you good? Do you need to talk about anything?
And she was like, no, my parents love me very much. And Ms. Phelps like, I didn't bring up your parents.
Yeah, I didn't mention them. Like, okay.
And every time, talk about our home life, Matilda leaves.
Yeah. So then we're back at school. And Miss Honey tells Matilda that she will bring her some very clever books for her to basically do independent study. And I also think that this is a really good way to stimulate a child that is clearly a little bit more intellectually advanced. Just give them more advanced material.
You got to meet your students where they're at.
Meet your students
very student-centered teaching.
Yes. And so Matilda's incredibly happy about this, gives her a big hug, and the Trunchbull comes in and says, absolutely not. I told you that she should not be getting special treatment. And by the way, Matilda, I know you stole my chocolate cake. And Matilda's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't steal anything. And then we hear a giant, long-ass burp from none other than Bruce Bogtrotter.
Yeah.
And it sends... go ahead.
This, song scene in the Matilda movie horrified me.
You really?
Yeah, it was so disgusting, and it's just, it's torturous. I was like, this isn't right, and I hate looking at it.
Fair. And so the burp sends a chocolate-scented cloud at the Trunchbull, and the way she tastes the air, unhinged. I love it.
Big fan.
And so then we get into the song Bruce. I really like this song, personally.
I do too, and I think it's really fun. Again, these kids dancing around, especially when it transitions to more like a Showtime kind of exhibit, song and dance. It was just really, really, really cool.
Yeah, one thing I really like about the choreography, the kids, you'll see them standing behind Trunchbull, so they're arranged kind of in a circle around the room, and as Trunchbull turns, they'll only dance when her back is to them or she's not directly looking at them.
Yeah.
And I just think the way that's managed with the choreography and the film, the cinematography, is just so good. So well done. Love it. And then, so then it breaks out to a full showstopper piece as Bruce is getting towards the end of the cake. Really cool scene. So then Bruce finishes the entire cake. Insane for a child, but then again, magic exists. And Trunchbull, despite having said that if he finished the entire cake, crumbs and all, that all would be forgiven. Although technically he didn't finish the crumbs, but that all would be forgiven. After he finishes, she says, that was only the first part of your punishment. The second part of your punishment is the choke. Matilda tries to stop her. She yells at her or whatever. Doesn't matter. The Trunchbull grabs Bruce and hauls him along after her.
And then everyone's leaving, we get to the song When I Grow Up. So you're seeing all these kids being, they're as leaving this horrible place for the day, and they're just having dreams, what they're hoping their lives will be. And it's very whimsical, and it's very fun, it's kind of sweet. I really liked what Amanda says, like, not like eat sweets every day, but also play with things that mom pretends aren't fun. And I just like that added layer of perspective of, yeah, I understand that, like, even adults pretend, and I don't want to be an adult that pretends. I just want to live.
Yeah. This is a song that I, again, like the first song, I think works functionally for what it needs to do in the narrative, but I, again, don't like the lyrics of it.
It's too long.
Yes, especially
each kid doesn't need 2 separate verses. Just give them one.
Yeah.
And then Miss Honey sings that she, like, when she grows up, she wants to brave enough to fist fight her boss. And, like, that's it.
Specifically the line, when I grow up, I will do all the things sometimes but like the ending of it, that's like, when you're grown up, the way, like, the meter of it, the way it's drawn out, and the way it is sung.
It should have been when you're grown.
When you're grown, yes, like, even that's better. That's I don't like these lyrics.
It's just,
yeah.
Sometimes it's just, like, awkward in the mouthfeel.
But I was like, why did they make Lashana Lynch sing these terrible lyrics? I feel bad for her. Because her voice is so beautiful.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then, so we get to more lovely story time.
Yes.
It's like, Ms. Phillips, do you have a revenge section? And it's like, oh, I hope the story has a happy ending. And Matilda says, I gotta warn you, it's about to get real. Yeah. It's just like, I'm not fucking around this time.
So Matilda continues the story. The escapologist has 12, they actually are performing the feat because the investor has forced them to. So the escapologist has 12 seconds to escape his chains and the cage that he's in to catch the acrobat, who is wired up with dynamite in, like, a mohawk.
That was so cool.
That was really cool.
That's really cool.
And so, like, the dynamite string weaves all the way down around her, near her feet, and so from the time that it's lit, he has 12 seconds. So he escapes his bonds, he manages to catch her and throw off the dynamite successfully, but when the dynamite explodes, it, like, jars the cage and I think, like, blows off one of the, like, links or something that's holding it up. And so he drops her, and she breaks every bone in her body except the littlest ones at the end of her fingers. And she has just enough time, or saved just enough to, like, have the child before she dies. Tragic? Made even more tragic by the fact that this is being dreamt up by, like, a 7-year-old.
Yeah. And then, like, this evil stepsister, like, moves in
with the escapologist to help.
Like, locks, like, her away, and then Ms. Phelps is like, we have to call the police, and because she's like, oh, it's not real.
It's not real.
But it is real.
But it is real.
And we kind of ended there.
Yeah.
And then we see that Matilda's parents have a lot of money selling, fucked up cars to. But they kept on saying a bunch of muscly men, and I'm just like,
did you not think this through?
No, because they're idiots. And then
she calls him out again for his, like, sketchy business practices.
I do love their bar.
Oh, absolutely! I want a wet bar like that. And he throws her into the attic, and she dreams of the escapologist from her story coming to save her. And we get into the song "I'm Here." I really like this song.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I think their voices actually work very well together, especially like how small and, like, childlike, because she's a child, but, like, how small and, like, kind of tentative her voice is versus, like, how full and, like, timbrous and just, like, warm his voice is. I really like the way they work together. And at the end of the song, like, he's, like, hugging her and saying, like, I'm really sorry, I never meant for you to be hurt or anything like that. And at the end, like, he puts her to bed, and then he drives away, presumably intending to come back, but never returns. And it is implied that he has died.
Yeah. And like, at this point, because I forget that it's a real story, I'm just like, what kind of story is she coming up with?
Yeah.
First, this random woman dies during childbirth, and then the dad never comes back.
Yeah.
Racist.
Actually, it's not racist.
Why did she choose for
It's
this to
more
happen to
racially
you?
aware because
Yeah.
because Matilda knows statistics, and she knows that Black women have a 3 times higher rate of dying in childbirth, and Black men have a 33 times higher rate of sentencing in the criminal justice system.
That's true.
And that's why Black kids don't have parents. There we go.
You're right.
It's the CRT in the Roald Dahl story. We love it. Anyway.
We get another one?
Absolutely.
Be right back.
Campbell, do you remember being back in like 3rd grade and having like music class and learning to play the recorder and like hot cross buns?
Fun fact. So, I know a lot of wind instruments. I physically was not able to play the recorder. My teacher told me just to stand there at the concert. But yeah, I'm familiar with the concept.
That's so sad.
It's okay. I can play the bassoon. I've gotten over it. I don't feel bad about it.
Okay, well, we'll move on.
Put a pin in that.
Put a pin in that. Boop. So, unfortunately enough, there are students all across the country that have never before had a general music education class and don't have the ability or the opportunity to access music education and get the chance to learn tons of different wind instruments or even just the recorder. And that's why we are partnering with Education Through Music, which is an organization that partners with low-income schools in New York City to provide students better access to music education.
Also, 53% of New York City schools do not have a music teacher on faculty full-time. So Education Through Music also provides weekly music education by putting qualified music teachers into these schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons this is so important is because motivation for learning means motivation for staying in school. And a lot of the students that are able to be involved in these music programs report that they have attended school when they otherwise would have skipped, or like stayed in school when they otherwise like wouldn't have wanted to stay, specifically because they were looking forward to music class or they were looking forward to ensemble, and getting to learn specifically about music.
And you can support and learn more at etmonline.org/donate. That's etmonline.org/donate. Help out. Do you have an instrument that you've neglected and now it hates you? Do you have too much money and think, hey, this can go to a good place? Neither applies to me, but I want to talk to you about the Daddario Foundation. They believe in the transformative power of music and that mentoring and building communities through music can positively affect social change. 100% of every dollar raised goes directly to support efforts to get kids involved in community music programs, acquire and maintain instruments, provide college scholarships, and support new innovation in music education. You can learn more and donate at www.daddariofoundation.org/about/donate. That's www.daddariofoundation.org/about/donate.
Hey there, listeners. Pop quiz. Who was your favorite teacher in school? Did it happen to be someone who inspired a movie? Did that movie later change the world? Because that's exactly what happened with Mr. Holland's opus, the story of the profound effect a dedicated music teacher had on generations of students. The composer for the film, Michael Kamen, later started the Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation in 1996 as his commitment to the future of music education. Today, the foundation works with schools nationwide to audit their music education programs, supply quality instruments, train teachers on basic instrument repair, and even offer customized consulting to make sure the school's program fits their students' needs. The impact of this foundation now ensures that hundreds of thousands of kids across the country are granted access to learn and play music in school, keeping music education alive and well. If you're interested in supporting their mission, you can donate online, over the phone, or even while you shop Amazon or eBay. Visit mhopus.org/donate to learn more.
Cheers.
Cheers. Great idea, Campbell.
We really outdid ourselves with this one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the escapologist drives away, never returns, he deed.
But we see
Matilda.
Similar scenes that escapologists can also do some magic.
Yes. And Matilda notices that her little trash bin is crumpled up. That's her first clue that telekinesis might be real.
Yeah. Okay, so we see they're coming to school. There's a secret rebellion going on because she told Ms. Trunchbull no. I'm seeing a music class that they're trying to have fun. Miss Trunchbull and Bruce arrives in, and he is broken shell of a child.
Yes. And so we find out that the day is going to be a phys ed day. And we get into the song with the smell of rebellion.
I think this is a really fun.
I think this is probably one of the best songs.
I think so too. Yeah.
In the movie. So basically, the song she's singing about like, okay, I can tell something is off. Like it's just a hint of a waft of an odor, and most people wouldn't be able to pick up on it. But I can tell these kids something's off. And so she makes them trek through the woods, through the mud, followed up by like a massive fucking obstacle course that like actual Marines would do. You know what I mean?
And then
like,
you see Agatha with
landmines.
That was the crazy part. But she would be very successful on American Ninja Warrior.
Absolutely, she's fantastic at this.
And really interesting point about like her like costume design.
Yes.
The shoes are actually like the weighted shoes like deep sea divers would wear, so that they would like stay on like
the bottom,
the sea floor.
Yeah, which I think is really interesting because like
always training. It's like
I like that as the detailing for a character. She's always strengthening herself. She's always trying to get better. Miss Honey finally tries to stand up to her.
Well, we also get a fun sequence that Agatha envisions a world with no children, and we learn that she's a horse girl, which
yes.
And it was very like, do you remember the live action Cat in the Hat movie?
Yes.
You know when he gets hit in the nuts by the actor that plays Beans from Even Stevens? And it's like, easy as Sunday morning. And he's just like swinging.
Yes.
All gleefully.
That's the
it's
vibe
like it's the vibe of that.
Very much. Yeah, like I also immediately
and then the child said something. She's like, you ruined it. Why do you exist?
Why do you exist? So then Mrs. Honey
parent named Zeke. Like she's
listen. And Miss Honey tries to stand up to her, tries to say like, hey, you need to calm down with these kids, it's too much, type of thing. And as she is distracted, she being the Trunchbull, as she is distracted, a kid puts a newt in her water.
Lavender.
Brilliant. Love it. Lavender's great. The Trunchbull, being of course the bully that she is, blames the wrong child, blames Eric. Telekinesis, he's adorable. And picks him up by his ears, because apparently little boys' ears don't fall off, they simply stretch. Not true, don't try that at home. Matilda yells at her to stop, and then the Trunchbull, basically starts stalking at her like she's prey. And we get into the song Quiet.
Yeah, which kind of like inspired like the word of today for silence and stuff.
Nice.
Because I think also it's very interesting because the song does a really good job of showing sensory overload. And because like we do learn that she always has these voices in her heads, and she's basically just reading everyone's minds, and it's just too much for her. So sometimes she goes to like her happy place, so that she just it's not completely not total silence. It's just quiet.
And I really like the comparisons that they make in the lyrics for silent or for quiet. Quiet like the sound of a page being turned. My favorite, I think, is quiet like the sound when you lie upside down in your bed.
Yeah, I really felt that one.
Yeah, and just like because I can relate to all of those, like the peace of all of those moments, and I really enjoy this. And so
you really see that Matilda's basically Jean Grey from X-Men.
Yes, literally. And so we get this like kind of storm around her that's happening. And so Matilda finally really does her telekinesis, and she throws a cup at the Trunchbull's head while shooting the newt into her pants. And so then the Trunchbull runs off screaming, "I've got a newt in my knickers." Which is not quite up there with "I've got squirrels in my pants."
It's there.
Squirrels in my pants. It's there. It's almost there.
That girl's got some serious squirrels in her pants. Squirrels in my pants. What a good song,
right? So then Miss Honey ushers all the kids inside. Matilda wants to show her power. And Campbell,
yes,
as a former substitute teacher,
yes,
what would you do if a child said, "Hey, I want to show you something," and demonstrates the ability to perform telekinesis?
I really don't know. because that would just change my entire worldview.
Wouldn't it?
And it doesn't for Miss Honey because, like, spoilers, she knows magic is real.
Mm-hmm.
From her papa. Is that how he's able to escape all his stuff? Magic?
Maybe.
I mean, that's what,
it's like, so that's cheating.
That's what the show is supposed to be. Oh, magic.
Yeah. So Miss Honey breaks the law and brings Matilda home.
Home loosely defined.
Home loosely defined. She lives in a literal wagon.
It's like, damn, girl, you live like this.
Damn, literally.
It's like when people like show pictures of like, this is like what guys think is like acceptable to live in, and it's just like a pizza on the floor, an Xbox, and a TV on the floor
with no stand.
With no stand, and they're just like, yeah, this is the
and like a single like lazy boy chair,
or like a folding chair.
Yes, yeah. The folding chair is crazy. So then Miss Honey brings her home to her wagon, tells her that she had to live with her aunt after her dad died, and that she grew up, or after she grew up and started teaching, her aunt made her agree to pay back every penny she had spent housing her, down to every tin of beans.
But she was not legally obligated to do that. But
not
fear.
And greed. Or
indeed. And then we find out that, like, Matilda isn't, like, making up a story herself. She's just reading her teacher's mind. So she's actually, like, not creative.
Yeah, which...
Also, like, kind of problematic.
The fact that it's, like...
Don't like, expose people's, like, trauma and childhoods for your own benefit. That's kind of fucked up, Matilda.
And it's just fucking weird that she, like... Again, either can literally read everyone's minds, or just knows this backstory. Neither one makes sense.
I think it was more so we saw Miss Honey there in the very beginning with the truancy officer, and I think she got a read on her parents and probably thought a lot more about her childhood and like what happened to her, and I assume she's magical as well, so maybe there was just like a crossing of wires kind of thing, that things started to get even more fizzy.
I see what you're saying.
Would be my professional opinion.
Yeah. And I really like when this song towards the end branches into a sort of like medley or mashup with I'm Here. Or have we said the song? We're in the song My House.
Yeah, in the middle of the street.
Yeah. And again, Lashana Lynch's voice, fantastic. They actually give it some credit this time. And yeah, I really like towards the end of the song where it branches into a sort of mashup with, I don't like using mashup here, I prefer like medley maybe, or duet with I'm Here. And again, like her voice with Matt Henry's voice melds very well together.
That wasn't Matt Henry's voice.
That wasn't Matt Henry's voice?
The doctor in this game.
Oh, yes, sorry. But
Spencer.
Her voice, yeah, with her dad's voice, just melds so well together. And I really like the sort of crossing of these two wires where, like, this is the closest he's ever going to get to, like, hugging. Like, it's like a sonic hug to his daughter, and I like that. So then Matilda runs away, because at this point she's realized...
And Miss Honey is like, no, you have to be careful, she's dangerous. And she's like, so am I. I was like, good, start murdering people.
Literally. So then Matilda runs to the chokey and destroys it. She gets home and learns that they are apparently moving to Spain because those muscly dudes that her dad sold the junker cars to are apparently affiliated with the mafia. And they are basically want them to give all of the money back, but the mom has spent it already. So the whole family is picking up and moving to Spain, as one does.
Yeah.
And so then she kind of goes to the library to try and tell Miss Phelps. Miss Phelps is away. And so then... She
basically leaves like a suicide note. I'm sure when... Okay, so think about it from Mrs. Phelps' perspective. She, sees this girl that, like, doesn't talk about her home life, have clearly disturbing stories and, like, imagery, and then one day you're like, oh, just out, come back to a note from her that's basically goodbye forever.
Yeah, that literally says...
With the tattered grapes of wrath. So
that literally
Catcher
says...
in the Rye situation?
I guess not all stories have happy endings. Like, yikes.
Yeah, it's just like, you need to call someone.
Someone needs to be calling CPS or something.
Yeah.
So then she goes to school. The Trunchbull has destroyed the playground as retaliation for the Chokey being destroyed. And then she leads them all to...
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Two wrongs don't make a right?
But three rights make a left.
And so she takes them to the cafeteria and tells them that they have a spelling test. And that if they get a single word wrong, or anyone who gets a word wrong, will go to the Chokey. Okay, so at first, Matilda's like, oh, you can't do anything, the Chokey's been destroyed, blah, blah, blah. And she reveals a secret, smaller Chokey that she has rebuilt that is underneath her chair. And so we get into the spelling test. They're all doing well because Miss Honey is a great teacher.
It's like, wait, you guys know shit? It was like, yeah, we have a good teacher. We're like, we do
Yeah,
learn
we're doing
things
quite
here.
well. Yeah.
Is she the headmistress? We're like, this is a school.
The point is to educate us? Anyway. So they're doing quite well until she starts fully making up words. And then they start, one girl gets the word wrong, and so she starts to drag her to the Chokey.
A fake word.
A fake word. So she starts to drag her to the Chokey, but then they all stand up and start spelling words wrong on purpose.
Very, I'm Spartacus.
Yes, love it. And so then she reveals that she has built 20 Chokeys, all lined around the cafeteria. Like, girl, get a life. Do you have nothing better to do?
I wonder how much she gets paid.
Facts.
Probably a lot.
Probably.
Because she didn't have to pay for a house.
For sure, too much. Absolutely. And so then Matilda grabs the chalk telekinetically and starts writing on the board, basically as Magnus, saying like...
The escapologist.
The escapologist, yes. Saying like, hey, give Ginny her home back, let these kids go, like blah, blah, blah. And then she forms, and this is really cool, but this was also the moment that I was like, how did you actually learn how to do this? Because you just started doing telekinesis like 2 days ago.
No, but you saw her practicing on the way to school with her hat.
You did see her practicing with her hat, but that's one thing. Anyway, so then she forms a giant likeness of the escapologist out of change. Very cool. Chains. Very cool, and I think it's awesome, but I don't think she's done enough practice to actually pull this off. But anyway, so then she uses the chains to smash all the Chokeys. The Trunchbull manages to kind of yank it down by pulling some of the chains, but then she telekinetically braids her hair and basically gives her the Amanda Thripp treatment of, pigtailed hair.
The Amanda Thripp trip.
True. But she catches her just before she lands on the ground.
So she doesn't die.
And out fall the key, unfortunately. And out fall the keys, which Miss Honey grabs and basically tells her to get the fuck out.
He was like, this is my school now, bitch.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this is the part that starts not making sense.
Correct.
Okay, so then we get into the song that we talked about before,
Yep.
for the preview, Revolting Children. So now all the kids are rioting. They're like, you can't tell us what to do anymore. The person telling you what to do is gone.
She's gone.
Yeah, what are you rebelling
Bad
against?
song.
A nice teacher that cares about you?
Bad song, bad start. I hate the fact...
Great dancing and choreography.
Agreed. But I hate the fact that it starts off with Bruce basically singing the lyrics to Naughty very, very slowly. Which, again, Naughty was the one that I talked about, has weird syllabic meter because of the nature of the lyrics. And so when you sing it very slowly, a cappella, it just kind of feels like you don't know what the rhythm of what the tempo of the song is supposed to be. Doesn't go well. Didn't enjoy it. And then, who are you revolting against? The bad person is
Yeah, you're a bunch of cowards. They're like, hey, we need to stand up to the person. We're too scared to. That person's gone. You know what? Oh, and another thing. They're a bunch of cowards.
And, the movie could have just been done, but they had to give us another bad song. And I don't appreciate it.
So, we see all that's happening, but then we see Matilda's parents come. It's like, hey, it's time to go. And then she's like, oh, don't really have a choice. But Miss Honey offers to, take her in.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Wormwood is just like, oh, you want to take in our daughter? First time called
He's referred to as a female, yes.
And they do have, a little tender moment. He is going to miss her, but it's just Claire's like, you want to be with her? And you want to take her? I mean, I guess.
Yeah. And so then, basically as a thank you for letting her stay, Matilda removes his hat. Which I thought was kind of a sweet moment.
Yeah. And then the mom just kind of waves goodbye.
Yeah.
But then we get into another song, which was added specifically for this movie. That wasn't a part of the stage show.
Yeah.
Still holding my hand, and my notes are whatever.
Yeah.
The Big Friendly School.
I think this song is cute, but I care more if this movie weren't 2 hours long.
This movie could have been an hour and 20 minutes.
I was literally thinking that exact time in my head. Agreed. And I also think the only time they hold hands during the song is at the very end, which just makes it not make sense. But that's
still holding my hand. It's like, it should be finally holding my hand.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we get into the credits when I grow up again.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of that.
Yeah, theme. Discussion question. Okay. So what I want to talk about is where to draw the line between like lyrical miracle in terms of like words to a song and overly verbose. Because and which songs fall on which side of that line. Because I do appreciate a song that has a lot of lyrics that like is quick paced, that you have to like
but that's a patter song. So
yes. I think patter songs can be very, very fun. Or even songs that like that just have like wordy lyrics, you know, that have like big words and stuff like that, where they really play on like syllabic meter and stuff like that. I've said that a lot in this episode. But my problem specifically with a lot of these songs is that the lyrics aren't constructed in a way that gets easily stuck in your head. And so when it's an overly wordy song that's not catchy, it's just like not singable. Like it's not a song that you would sing to yourself or sing afterwards because you literally can't remember the lyrics. And two, I think the tempo of a lot of these songs, crossed with how wordy they are in the specific way that they're wordy, makes them hard to understand. Like there are parts of Revolting Children that to me are actually almost unintelligible because the children are singing very high because they have children's like high voices, and it's just very quick like words and like very too wordy for me to actually parse out everything that they're saying and make the lyrics make sense. And I think that is a detriment overall to the show.
Which is interesting because I didn't have a problem like hearing the words.
That's interesting. Normally we're the opposite there.
Yeah. But I do think meter and syllables, and it's just really important. And I think, there were a lot of areas that it was just kind of awkward, and it wasn't like it. Because sometimes I think that's successful when you do that in like a chorus or something, but the song is also giving like that emotion that it is awkward, or you're stumbling through things, or things are difficult to express.
Yeah.
That wasn't this. It was just like word choice.
Yeah.
That I think the same kind of message could have been given maybe better.
And I think that's what my thing with it is a lot of the word choices. Like I said, I think the construction of a lot of these lyrics are not ones that will easily get stuck in your head, like easily catch in your head.
And like you have to end on the right sounding consonant or vowel sound.
Yes.
And I feel like when like there would be lines that end like lyrically, the words, it sounds like there should be another word, or it's like a couple words too many.
Okay. Anything else to say?
I don't think so.
Okay, that can be a quick discussion.
Yeah.
So getting into Raven's composers, co-minor. I like doing that now. Thank you for that little idea. Okay.
It was alcohol inspired.
So we have two main people for today. We have Tim Minchin, who wrote the songs for the original stage show, which were all adapted to here for this musical film. And then he did also write a couple extras, one or two extra songs just for this film. And we also have Christopher Nightingale, who composed the incidental score for this film and had also written background music for the stage production, so they brought him back for this. So starting off, we have Tim Minchin, who is a British-born Australian comedian, actor, writer, musician, poet, composer, and songwriter. And I would argue one of those he's perhaps a little less proficient in than the others. But who am I to say? He performs on vocals, piano, and guitar, although he describes himself as a hack pianist and is more of a guitarist. Well, more in the sense of like he started learning piano when he was 8, but didn't like the level of discipline that it required, and so kind of just stopped. But
you know what? That's super relatable.
You know?
I understand that one. I would consider myself that kind of pianist too.
Facts. His primary style is musical comedy, which I found a little funny because I don't think I cracked I think I cracked 3 smiles this entire movie.
I think you're so harsh for this. Like, yeah, I think sometimes a lyric was awkward, but you're really going in on him.
I liked it. I didn't super like it when I first watched it, and I liked it less this watch.
Yeah, you remembered that you didn't like it, so that's just influencing all your notes.
Yeah. So he's done like 6 CDs and 5 DVDs of musical comedy. He also has a background in theater. He's appeared in several stage productions, including Amadeus, Man of La Mancha, Hamlet, Twelfth Night, and Jesus Christ Superstar, among many others. And he was actually commissioned by the Royal Shakespeare Company to write the music and lyrics for this show in 2008. So it first ran at the Courtyard Theatre in Stratford-upon-Avon in 2010, and then ran in the West End in 2011. So yeah, by the time this movie was made, a lot of those kids had probably aged out of being able to play the Matilda kids. And the original runs of this show actually earned 7 Laurence Olivier Awards and 4 Tonys, which I thought was quite good.
Yeah.
So then getting into Christopher Nightingale, who I found significantly less information on, but what I could find, he is a musical supervisor, orchestrator, and composer. And this man has an entire list of musical film adaptations that he's done. So he's done, of course, Matilda the Musical, A Christmas Carol, Groundhog Day the Musical, Lord of the Rings the Musical, and Ghost the Musical.
Oh, I actually we heard a song from Ghost the Musical the other day, and it's like the song that's like in Ghost, but it was interesting. It wasn't bad.
I would definitely watch Lord of the Rings the Musical. I think that'd be very interesting.
Yeah. We'll have to have like some kind of like elven wine.
Ooh, yeah. He was an organ scholar at the Magdalen College.
That's so cool.
Before eventually going on to work for the Royal Shakespeare Company. So that's kind of where his connection was tied in there. So yeah, I think, okay, I will say,
something positive about people that like are very talented. Yeah, go for it. Right? Here's your opportunity. This is your moment. Take it.
I do think these people are very talented.
Correct.
And I do like some of the songs in this musical, mostly Trunchbull's songs. I really like.
Emma Thompson's just like
she's fantastic.
Worked it.
Fantastic. I just don't love some of the lyrics in here, but I recognize that that's an opinion of mine and is not at all an objective reflection on the quality of the show. You're saying
now because I'm like pushing back on
it. Yes. Unfortunately, I was hoping to roast this musical with you.
I mean, there was a lot of parts that worked.
There were definitely, for sure. Yeah. So, Campbell, what are we playing today? I've driven 7 hours with my violin. What are we doing? What you got for us?
We're playing, actually, similarly, my favorite Pussycat Girls song, When I Grow Up.
Love it.
And yeah, Raven on the violin, myself on the piano, question mark?
Ooh.
We'll see how that goes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, bye. Be right back. And we have tried our darndest.
Indeed, we have. And you know what? I think for a brief moment in there, I actually sounded a little bit like what the melody of the song vaguely sounds like.
Yay! But we have come to the end.
Indeed, we have.
Raven, I feel like it's not going to be high, but how would you rate this musical on a scale of 1 to 10?
Trying to be a bit more objective, I think I'll give it a 6. Really, the main thing I don't like about it is the lyrics, which isn't the worst thing. And like, the cinematography's great, a lot of it's very good, the performances are great. I'll give it a 6.
I'll give it a 5, way too long. It felt like 4 hours.
It was far too long.
I liked. There was a lot of merit to it. Way too long. So many songs, way too long.
Agreed.
Some of the songs, not needed.
Agreed.
There's a lot of scenes in between the songs. And I understand it's a musical movie. Too long, felt like 4 hours we were watching it, and it's 2 hours and 2 minutes.
I will say, despite the songs often being too long, it didn't feel like there were too many songs until the very end, when I was like, you didn't need to get, like, you could have finished here. But throughout the movie overall, I wouldn't say there were too many songs.
I would.
Just that each song could have been shorter, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Where can you find us?
Ask me the question.
Where can you find us? Right, do it. Also, thanks for listening, listeners.
Of course, yes. We so much appreciate your engagement. And speaking of engagement, if you want to get more people to engage with us, or, maybe your favorite platform is going away and so you want to see where else can you catch us. There's a lot of places that you can find us. You can find us on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on iHeartRadio.
Google Podcasts is not a thing.
It's not a thing? Dang, we keep losing them. Okay, so former Google Podcast listeners, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, on iHeartRadio, on Pandora. You can find us on Podbean. Anywhere your little heart desires, anywhere that podcasts can be found.
Pocket Casts.
Ooh, indeed, that's a good one. Yeah. You can find us, and when you find us, and if you find us, and if you listen, which you have to be hearing this, then...
A lot of ifs, pretty conditional.
Then you can rate us, you can like us, you can comment, you can share, you can follow, and we hope that you do all of those things. You can also give ideas or suggestions or criticisms, which we will also take and throw them in the bin, but we'll take them. You can send those to boozicals@gmail.com, which is boozicals@gmail.com. You can also DM us on Instagram @boozicals, where Campbell likes to post very fun pictures that he's photoshopped of us, along with all of the pictures of our cocktails. So get a little gander at us over on Instagram.
We're struggling.
There's a reason I always make you finish out the episodes.
Yeah, I think that's it though. Donate to music.
Absolutely.
Education through music. I was going to say Thomas Holland.
Mr. Holland's Opus. Yes.
Foundation to Draw Your Foundation.
I was going to say, go help a child that's being bullied.
There's a lot of children. There's a lot of children needing help right now in the world.
Indeed. Maybe give them a book. It